Hey, it's Chris Sinatra with ChristianSinatra.com, back with another 4-minute book review. Thanks for joining me. Today's book review is of Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell. Just finished reading this book like a couple hours ago. I'm a big Gladwell fan. Outliers, right? It's probably top 10 on most people's list of all-time books. That book I loved. This book, frankly, struggled a little bit with it. If I can give you sort of the 1-minute summary, which is probably going to be a little bit challenging on this book because I felt that it sort of meandered in a few different directions, wasn't that clear. But really what the book is about is the way in which we form preconceptions about people in advance and how oftentimes those preconceptions are formed by things like body language and language, etc., that ultimately turns out to be incorrect, and then we end up forming the wrong preconception. It starts out by it walks us through that conversation through a few different stories, a few different case studies. Starts out with this unfortunate story of Sandra Bland, a African-American lady who was pulled over in remote Texas for a very minor traffic violation. The officer, through his lack of training or probably incorrect training, ends up escalating the issue to the point where he's dragging Miss Bland out of the car and ultimately arrests her for resisting, and she ends up going to prison. And I'm not going to tell you the rest of it. Or she doesn't go to prison, she goes to jail, but I'm not going to ruin it for you. And then it talks about Bernie Madoff, who, as you probably know, there are so many people in that industry, in the financial services industry, that said this guy's a fraud, that he had been perpetrating for many, many years. What he was doing wasn't, mathematically possible, and yet still people who should know better were investing enormous amounts of money with this guy. And it wasn't until Markopoulos, who was an investigator, through some very simple investigating techniques, was able to determine that this guy was a fraud. And even then, people continued to invest their money with them until it was ultimately found out and proven that he was a fraud. Then it talks about the Jerry Sandusky case and how Jerry Sandusky was this enormously popular figure in the community, very involved with children's causes, and ultimately found, it was proven that this guy had been molesting hundreds of kids over the course of years, when people had suspected this were the case. And yet, because he was Jerry Sandusky, there was this default to truth, which is a concept that is woven throughout this book. It could not possibly be true that Jerry is molesting these kids, and of course we now know that he was. So I think the book was good. I read Outliers probably twice. I listened to the audio version of it at least once. I'll probably have to do that with this too. I'm not the shortest or the sharpest tool in the shed. So I'm going to probably have to let this thing settle for a few days or maybe even a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to go back and probably read it again. But does it suck? Does it not suck? It doesn't suck. I'm a Gladwell fan. I think his stuff's really good. I enjoyed it. I think it's a really intelligent way of looking at our preconceptions and how incorrect they are so often. So I like the book. Love to get your thoughts on it. Please correct me for where you think I'm wrong, and share your feedback. Let me know what you thought of the book, and let me know some of the other books that you're reading, and would love to chat with you about them. So leave comments. If you like the channel, always give me a thumbs up, appreciate it. And we will be back soon with another book review. Thanks again for spending your 4 minutes with me. Have a great day.